All right, we've got Kali Linux installed. We're successfully logged in, and now we're going to learn some Linux. Before we get started with learning Linux, let's take a brief minute or two to actually just look at Kali Linux and what it has to offer, and also see why it is the go-to distribution when it comes to pen testing. So here we have our screen, and you can see from the sidebar here that there are some favorites. Now, you can use Linux like a GUI, so graphical user interface, basically meaning that we can just point and click on something like this folder here will bring up files. Now, these files look similar if you're a Linux user or Mac user. This is just a GUI way of accessing files, right? So we can go into documents or downloads or however we want to do it. We've got access to our folders and our files right here on the left side. We've also got this Firefox. Now, Firefox used to be Iceweasel, so you can see like a little bit of a weasel in here. But now it is known as Firefox, and this is our web browser. And we also have this thing called the terminal. We're going to be very intimate with the terminal here, starting in the next video. So the terminal is a way to utilize accessing everything that we have here, including these folders and these files, without ever using a graphical interface to do so. So we'll learn a lot about the terminal and why it's so powerful and how to utilize it in our day-to-day pen testing. And we have some other tools here as well. We've got a little text editor or a notepad. We've got Metasploit, which is a framework we're going to become very familiar with pen testing throughout this course. We've got Burp Suite, which I promise we'll use as well. That's more geared towards web application penetration testing. We've got ZenMap, which is also the graphical version of a tool called Nmap. That's for network scanning. We'll get into that as well. And we've got this wonderful tool here called Cherry Tree. Now, we have covered KeepNote and we've covered GreenShot. This is another option. I told you guys that we're going to be looking at Cherry Tree when we install Linux. Here it is. So you can just set up nodes here. We can just say test. And now you can take your notes. So take some notes, and then you can add additional nodes on top of that, test 2, and now you have a baby node here, or a child node, or whatever you want to call it. So this is very nice for keeping a good notebook, especially if you want it inside of your virtual machine. The only advice against this that I have is that keeping your notebook inside your virtual machine, if your virtual machine crashes or you don't have a backup of it, you lose all of your notes. So me, preferably, I like to keep my notes outside of my VM. However, I do know a lot of people that keep their notes inside their VM. Here's a really, really easy way to do it with Cherry Tree. It's very point and click, and you can actually just import screenshots pretty easily as well into here. So another option instead of KeepNote is Cherry Tree, and it works really, really well. So again, very important to keep notes, and I do like that Offensive Security has put the Cherry Tree on the favorites panel for this version of Kali Linux. So I'm going to close this out. I'm not going to save it. A couple other things to point out. So we can hit this little bar here to show all of our applications. And you can see all the applications that we have installed. We could scroll through, and there's quite a bit. But a better way to actually look at this is to go ahead and just hit escape. And if we go up to applications here at the top, we can see that everything is put together in phases. So we're going to talk about the phases of ethical hacking. And for example, step 1 is information gathering. So they've got some tools here for information gathering related to it, right? So all these nice tools, but let's say that we wanted to do reporting. Well, they have got some reporting tools down here. They've got social engineering tools, forensics, reverse engineering, wireless attacks. So basically they have all kinds of built-in tools here for penetration testing. And that is what makes this a penetration testing distribution. That's what makes this so awesome. So all these favorites here comes power loaded with so many different tools. So Kali Linux is awesome. The other option out there is called Parrot. You might hear a lot of people talk about Parrot. Parrot is up and coming. I've used it a bit. I do not like it. I've had some performance issues with it. So my preference and go-to is Kali Linux, but both offer a lot of the same features. So from here, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to now open up a terminal and we're going to maximize it. And we are just going to take some time and actually get familiar with this command line. So I will catch you in the next video when we start to actually learn how to navigate the file system and utilize Linux to our advantage.